Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Ombudsman Report podcast, the OR. I'm joined by my co-host, as always, Bobby Juliana. What's going on, Bobby?
Matt, we finally got a video recording.
Finally got a video recording. Shout out to the Delco Nerd Network. Our friend Anthony Rigucci is gracious enough to let us use his studio.
Yep.
We got a bunch of stuff to talk about today, and I think we're going to start off by talking about this Lauren Ingram craziness, because it really is craziness.
Yeah.
To say the least.
We were talking about this earlier. It seems like most of the news today just comes out of Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter is the news.
Twitter drives the news. We were saying, what happens if Twitter didn't, exist for, they took it away for 2 weeks? I think everyone would just go on with their lives and people would be a lot happier. But all this took place on Twitter, and it's now having real-life consequences. So, Laura Ingram, she's known to make stupid comments.
I would say she's known to make stupid comments, but
Yeah.
she's one of these...
She's an opinion host. That's, her job.
Yeah, she's one of these talking heads on Fox News.
Right.
And, they put her in front of a camera, and she has a radio show, she has opinions, whatever.
Right.
And she's going to tweet out some fiery stuff, and she had a pretty bad take over the past couple of days. So
she had a bad take, but let's be honest, the take was pretty mild in terms of
it was
the
mild.
nasty shit that's been said on Twitter about Parkland students, by Parkland students,
about her, about Lauren.
about her, yeah.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say that. I think it's fair. So let's start off just in case you aren't aware of what the controversy actually is.
Right.
And so TMZ, which let's just make a side note: the fact that TMZ is the way people get news.
Dude, I was just saying this the other day. It's like a credible news source now because they've been doing this outrage news for so long that they're like the leaders in it. And now CNN is just making this is all clickbait. TMZ created the clickbait.
They basically did create the clickbait because there's no better way to get people to say stupid shit on camera than by just showing up randomly and throwing a camera in their face when they're not ready.
An airport.
And catch them outside an airport or a restaurant, exactly. So TMZ interviewed David Hogg, who's become sort of the champion of the March for Our Lives.
Did they interview him?
Yeah, he was.
I think he just posted the video and then they took it, didn't they?
No, I think they were talking to him
okay.
on TMZ.
Okay.
And during the interview, he talked about being rejected by a few colleges, UCLA, UC Irvine. And to be honest, David Hogg wasn't being an asshole about it or anything.
No, he was just pretty much making. He has followers now. He pretty much has fans. He was making a video saying, "Look, I just got these rejection notices. UCLA, UC Irvine, two other ones in California," and he was just basically just saying, "I didn't get in. It sucks, but we're moving on. It's fine." That was the video. And then Laura Ingram, of course, pushing out to her fans. So there was an article written up about David Hogg and him not getting into college. And David Hogg had a 4.1 GPA, which obviously very good, and his SAT score was a 1270. And then
it's a pretty good SAT
It's a pretty good SAT score, but when you're talking about UCLA and UC Irvine,
out of state,
right? The averages are higher than that. The average SAT score is a 1360.
Right. Okay.
For UC LA.
That's not what I got.
So it makes sense that he didn't get in based on the merit of his scores.
Right. Correct. Yeah. And I don't think David Hogg was saying that they didn't let him in
for political reasons.
I don't think he said.
I think he's just saying I didn't get in.
I think he applied to these schools before the Parkland thing happened a long time ago, and they didn't even recognize his name.
The decision was not political.
Thousands of people applied to UCLA. I wish I would have applied to UCLA back then. I wouldn't have gotten in.
Yeah, warmer weather than Philadelphia for sure.
Well, that's true, and Pittsburgh. But anyway, so he went on CNN, and is it Allison Camerata?
Yep.
And
so, of course, the news picked it up. So CNN now is just taking these kids.
You explain.
CNN's taking these kids, and, they get ratings, and they're allowing them just to say whatever they want, and a lot of things that they do say supports their agenda, so that's why they have them on.
Right,
so
exactly.
He went on CNN, and just, because now this kid who was in the tragedy can't just talk about, the March for Our Lives or what he's doing on it. We now care about his school and where he's going to college.
Right.
It's all entertainment. So
exactly what we were talking about last week. It's all entertainment.
It's entertainment.
David Hogg is thrown into this America reality TV fame where you just bounce around from TV screen to TV screen, and we have to know everything about your life. We have to know what you named your pet or whatever. Allison Camerata wants to be the bleeding heart liberal, and she just wants to win some fans and show that she loves David Hogg so much because so amazing. So She said, "What kind of dumbass colleges don't want you?" Virtue signal, virtue signal,
Yeah,
virtue
just
signal.
pandering right to
Didn't even
them.
look up. How about he didn't have the scores to get in?
So now the colleges are dumb because they didn't accept this kid who supports an idea that you do. So because David Hogg wants to pretty much ban all guns, because David Hogg is for gun control, which CNN is and Alison Camerata is, colleges that don't accept him based on merit are now stupid colleges and they're bad for not accepting him.
Right, and it's not even David Hogg. It's the adults. There's a thing about David Hogg that
There
pisses
are
me
no
off.
more adults.
David Hogg gets me angry, but it's the adults are the ones who are responsible for peddling this nonsense and letting this kid get on TV.
Right.
David Hogg's dad, if you follow his dad on Twitter, his dad is worse than him, I swear.
He's very political. I remember him from like the town hall.
Originally, his dad said more immoral things than the kids did. It was really shocking.
Right.
And you know, I hate the whole patriarchal thing. I'm not a Matt Walsh fan by any means.
He writes some good articles. But...
He writes some good articles, but it was very much like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Right.
In the David Hogg case, and that's sort of what you can tell from his dad. So anyway, Laura Ingraham, being the opinion journalist, she's the Fox News, she's the blonde girl on Fox News, so she's got to have her say.
Right.
She tweeted out an article talking about the UC Davis, and she said something like, David Hogg applied to these colleges, was rejected, and now is whining about it.
Yeah, the main point that was bad was she put, dinged by these colleges and quote whines about it, and then something about how he had a 4.1 GPA and his SAT score, and like based on the merit, that's why he didn't get in. So
right.
she explained it factually correct, but she said he whines about it, which really wasn't how the video was.
No, he wasn't whining. He wasn't
Being
whining
fair to
about
him.
it.
Yeah, he wasn't.
But this is where
He's a 17-year-old kid. He's pissed he didn't get in college.
right, exactly.
And this is why we should kind of let them drift off into irrelevance. But
let them be adult. Yeah, let them be adults before you put them on CNN. Read this. And so in response, because whining, the obvious measured response to someone saying you're a whiner
Right.
is to go after their advertisers and their career and ruin their job.
Yeah.
And so this is where the controversy really picked up, and it got really heated because David Hogg responded to Lauren Ingram's tweet by listing 12 of her advertisers and telling people to, if you want to help the cause, please boycott and please call all these advertisers and get Lauren Ingram off the show.
And what is the cause now? If you want to help the cause, we need to call these companies and make sure they don't advertise on a very popular show. On a very popular show. They can't advertise there now because now businesses are wrapped up in it. It's just... So he listed all the companies. He then, like later that day, tweeted out a Media Matters article just listing every single one of her hundreds of advertisers.
We should mark a flag right there. Media Matters is so damaging to political conversation.
Yes.
They are
complete left-wing
organization that just goes after advertisers of any right-wing opinions.
They boycotted Hannity a couple times. It's the thing. Here's the thing. Like, you can disagree with what they say. Like, she shouldn't have said it whines about it. But is that we're going to attack our companies now? You know?
Right.
And like
right.
Sean Hannity, when he says something objectable, which is fairly often, like, I mean, he's an opinion host. He has the right to say that. And Media Matters particularly will then boycott his advertisers.
And they boycott their advertisers.
Like a month ago.
Yeah, they'll boycott their advertisers as if, someone's putting Hitler on TV. They're like...
They take it extreme.
They take it to the extreme. It's like, well, this guy has millions of people that are watching his show every night. So obviously it's not an opinion that's that far-fetched. That's out of... Like, it's not... we're not talking about... these putting people back in chains or something like Joe Biden would say, right? That we want you to do. We're not talking about that. We're talking about whining about not getting into college.
She made a stupid comment. Like, I mean, even if she said something super egregious, like, it's up to the companies to decide if they don't support her views. I don't know why we have to have people calling these companies and making them not advertise there when it's potentially how it would help their business advertising on her show. And
exactly where this ended up going is the reason that this shouldn't be a tactic in the first place, because it's a mutually assured destruction.
So he tweeted out, hashtag shut up and be objective, the Media Matters article, all her advertisers. I don't know if it was the next day or sometime after, Laura Ingraham tweeted out an apology.
Yeah.
So she said, I'm sorry if anyone took offense to it. Everyone should be proud of a 4.1 GPA, and they should. And in the spirit of Holy Week, I'd like to apologize because Laura Ingraham's very, very Catholic.
Right.
So David Hogg rejected it because this isn't about civility. This isn't about, you shouldn't have said that. That wasn't nice. Apologize. Okay, everything's forgiven. This is about... It's
catching you.
Got you.
Gotcha. Now finally, you said something wrong, so now it has to be an unrelenting attack until you're stopped.
And even if you repent, you're still blackmarked. You can't come back from it.
Yeah, they're more puritanical than the Puritans.
Yeah,
it's really crazy.
They are.
And so once he initially rejected the apology, it just blew up even more, right? And he tweeted out something I just have written down here. David Hogg tweeted out, "Focus less on fear and more on facts." This coming from the person that said Dana Lash doesn't care about dead kids,
right?
Which is fear mongering. But saying that Marco Rubio
or these NRA supporters have blood on their hands.
Claude Taylor, this Democrat, activist hack. He claims he worked in like a bunch of administrations, but it turns out he was like the doorman for fucking Bill Clinton or something like that,
okay.
Right? Focus on fear, not facts. The NRA is a terrorist organization. That's not focusing on fear. That's facts. Give me a fucking break.
Marco Rubio has blood on his hands. Marco Rubio takes money for dead kids.
It's never been about just facts.
And Dana Lash, the CEO of the NRA, which she isn't, then he got corrected. Dana Lash, it controls these. She owns these congressmen.
Yeah, what kind of fact
this
is
kid
that?
From the beginning has never been about fact. Like, as soon as the tragedy happened, this kid believes in gun control. We can parrot him. He's just a meat shield. They just put David Hogg out there. David Hogg says exactly what they think, but you can't attack him because he's 17 years old.
We'll get back to that because this kept going. And Kyle Kashuv, who is we sort of praised him last time on our podcast because he's been doing some good work. He's like the conservative Parkland. He's become the representative.
I wish I didn't have to be, picking a student.
Exactly. I wish I didn't have to pick a 17-year-old to be my icon, to be my political icon, and just channel all my feelings through the 17-year-old.
Right. That's how divided we are, though, dude.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. There's a shooting, there's a tragedy, and instead of discussing the reasons and how to prevent in a logical manner and potentially coming up some good out of it, we just have, okay, I like that student's views and you like that one, so let's have a conversation about the topic, but use the kids so we can avoid blame.
Yeah, let's throw mud at each other. Let's throw mud on these kids so we don't get it on ourselves.
Right.
Right. And Kyle just called bullshit on Hogg's doublespeak, just like we were just talking about. He said, what are you talking about, David Hogg? You've been focusing on these fear tactics the entire time. Mm-hmm. And again, we're pointing out the hypocrisy in David Hogg. He's 17. If I was 17 and you put a camera in my face,
say some dumb shit.
I would say some of the stupidest shit ever. I would say more dumb shit than I'm saying right now on this podcast.
Exactly.
But that doesn't change the fact that these adults are letting this kid go out there and do it.
Right.
I think that's really damaging. And what's even funnier is that the right was attacking David Hogg, but now the left has been drawn into this game of throwing mud at kids because Kurt Eichenwald, a Vanity Fair contributor, someone who was a former MSNBC contributor, decided to throw his own mud at Kyle Kashuv. But it was just a misunderstanding, as you'll find out, right. Which I don't understand how it makes it any better.
So Kurt Eichenwald on Twitter said, quote, "Kyle, you continue to disappoint. Trafficking in fantasies, fine. Your followers are infantile. Your only form of debate is insult, and you wonder why I have no respect for you." Okay, so this is a grown man, a political columnist, commenting on a junior in high school.
Yeah.
Because he disagrees with him on guns. So that's very rational. That's very...
We were told you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, also, he's the same person who's been lambasting all these people for attacking David Hogg, even though David Hogg's saying ridiculous shit, like all the shit we just said. So...
Kurt is obviously the fucking worst. If you don't know Kurt Eichenwald, he's the guy who... He put up a screen capture of his computer screen one time, and one of the tabs was for tentacle porn. And so he's been sort of just like a meme on Twitter for like over a year as the tentacle porn dude.
And he tried to explain it away too, and it was pretty funny. He was like, "My kids and I were having a debate, and his kids are like 6 and 8 years old." So it was just weird.
He was digging his hole deeper.
Just totally dug it deeper. And he did the same thing here. So he attacks Kyle on Twitter.
Not tentacle porn. He digs himself a hole deeper. Sorry, we should definitely clear that up.
Right. So he attacks Kyle on Twitter. "I have no respect for you." This is just a kid. This is just a kid who's contradicting another kid who he supports. We're having a proxy war through children. Anyway, so he says, "I misspoke. I actually meant to attack another high school sophomore, who's C.J. Pearson." And if you don't know C.J. Pearson, he's just kind of like a MAGA supporter. Yeah. One of those guys on Twitter. But he's black, and he's a high school sophomore, I think also from Florida. And Kurt Eichenwald was like, he's constantly, this high school sophomore kid, talking about me on his podcast and making fun of me. So this high school sophomore is living rent-free in Kurt Eichenwald's head.
Yeah, he's literally like, wow, like what a great job. I love hearing that because I know that now C.J. Pearson, whatever he says, he knows Kurt Eichenwald's going to be furiously thinking like, can I talk about this kid? So let's just get it straight. It's okay to attack a 17-year-old black sophomore kid as long as you're the good guy on the left and they're on the right.
Right.
And they're MAGA. As long as they're wearing a MAGA hat, you can say whatever you want about them.
Yeah.
If you're
I meant to tell this 17-year-old who likes Trump and constantly talks about me on his podcast that I have no respect for him. Not the other 17-year-old who was in a high school shooting.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, which is fine.
So, again,
and
digging himself deeper.
Digging himself deeper. And I'm on the side is, let's just stop with the whole high school kid shit. Let's get back to the adults talking about it, all right? These kids went through a tragedy. They shouldn't be talking about this. If they want to pursue political activism in the future, let them do so. That's fine. But the whole martyr, woe is me, is sort of being overplayed because the policies they're talking about aren't policies that can just be passed laying down. Right? We feel bad that these kids went through this, but you can't just give up the Second Amendment. Like we were talking about last week. A former Supreme Court justice said we need to repeal the Second Amendment. Now, that isn't just common sense gun control. That is a complete
repeal,
foundational change of the American
way of life,
society. Really,
I mean, over 300 million guns in this country. Almost more than half, or almost half of the country's
I think 40%.
households.
I think 40% of households
own guns. So you're not talking about like a small minority. This is a big. I mean, this is why it gets so heated because it's literally 50%. It's half and half, and I mean. Just getting back to the advertisers and attacking. So after they went after Laura Ingrams for... So, again, to recap, Kurt Eichenwald says he has no respect for a child because of his views that differ from his. Laura Ingrams said he was whining about getting into college. This is just the double standard of the left and right, dude.
Yeah, but exactly. But who has to take a week off from their job?
Yeah.
Without pay?
So,
Laura Ingrams.
Laura Ingrams now is going to be off all next week. They're bringing in guest hosts. They're going to play it off like it was a planned vacation, but it wasn't. She's just going to take a week off to avoid the heat and let everyone forget about it.
Which honestly, if I'm her, good. She should just duck out. Honestly,
Whatever.
It's not worth.
She's had a bad last month with the shut up and dribble.
It's true.
Like she needs to take a break, but
she needs to reevaluate. She needs to stay off Twitter. I think.
In response to David Hogg going after all of our
effectively,
16 different companies have dropped Laura Ingrams' show.
Wow,
16 different companies. Now, in response to that, I mean, the right side has Twitter too. All the the MAGA accounts decided they want to fight fire with fire. So Kurt Eichenwald was they thought he was, but about a month ago he stopped being an MSNBC contributor.
Yeah, he had MSNBC contributor.
He still had it in his profile.
Right.
So they said, all right, fine, we'll look up MSNBC's contributors and start going after them. And since then, a couple MSNBC companies advertising on MSNBC have dropped advertising from the channel.
And this game sucks.
Why are we having a civil war over companies advertising?
This is Ben Shapiro said. He's wrote about Media Matters before, I think, in his book.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, can we finally agree that going after each other's advertisers is just a shitty way to do this political game? We can keep the charged rhetoric. We can keep all that, but you're trying to bury people for having opinions,
right.
And it's not coming off.
Like first they used the kids, and now the kids are running their use, and now we're going to have to the companies. When we could have just had a logical, and Marco Rubio tried to have a logical debate about it, and he got absolutely destroyed for it.
If I'm Marco Rubio, I'm never going into another town hall again.
Why would you?
No way. It's not worth it.
Why would you? Because what did he get? I mean, he got called like basically a child murderer from the left. And from the right, he got told he was wishy-washy on the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
So like, it's a no-win to try and do the right thing.
Which sucks. Which just speaks to not only gun control. I think that just speaks to our political conversation.
It's every issue.
Every issue is like that. Is if you try to extend a hand to the other side to compromise and do bipartisanship, there is the constituents on your side who say you're a traitor,
right?
Or whatever. Because
if you try and extend across the aisle,
because trying to get legislation or something is a bad thing unless it's absolutely pure 100%.
Trying to get good legislation.
Because, legislation,
Compromised legislation.
There's
no more compromise.
There's no more compromise. It has to be a 100% puritist version.
We need to ban all guns, or we need to be selling machine guns to 10-year-olds. That is how they paint the picture, and it's like, okay, so hold on. But that's how they paint the picture on TV, on political podcasts, on journalists in the news. But when you talk to a normal person, an average person, nobody thinks either of those extremes.
Yeah,
common sense gun reform. It's like, what's the polling on that? It's like 80% are in favor because obviously, why wouldn't you want to have common sense gun reform? It's when you start to define what that means. Like to the left, that means banning all guns, and to the right, that means you can't touch my Second Amendment.
Right. Yeah. They're just coming at it from two completely different places. Yeah, I think. I don't know if I should mention this at the end here. You think we should?
About
David Hogg, I think it's worth saying, because
it is worth saying.
Because David Hogg, he wants to be this political firebrand. You can't be attack dog and victim at the same time. It doesn't work that. If you want to be a part, if you want to put yourself out there, and Ben Shapiro said this when he was a 17-year-old syndicated columnist.
Right.
He put himself out there and he received heat. And that's just what's going to happen when you put yourself out there in public. And so if you want to become involved in the political conversation and you want to take a stand against something that is so fundamental and so charged as the Second Amendment.
Literally.
You know, when you say these things, people are going to be very...
When you're incorrect.
When you're incorrect, I think. Did you see that piece? I think it was by the Washington Post, Gunsplaining. Did you see that?
Oh, God.
I think it was by the Washington Post. Maybe I'll look it up real quick, but it was basically someone on the left saying that it doesn't matter if assault rifles aren't real. Like, you telling me assault rifles aren't real doesn't change the fact that we should ban all guns or something like that. So it was like they're trying to take the conversation from you don't need any expertise on the issue to speak on it,
right?
Which is dangerous. We obviously don't have the most expertise, but I mean, I like to think I can do a Google search to know that an automatic weapon.
Sure, and you try and do a little research before you talk about a topic, but like,
did you see Chelsea Handler's tweet?
Yeah.
Chelsea Handler has, of course, millionaire. I guess she's funny to some people.
She's not funny.
I don't think she's funny. I think she's so annoying.
Yeah.
And she's just a drunk.
Kind of.
On TV.
Pretty much.
She tweeted something about the Second Amendment. Someone responded, like, don't you have armed bodyguards or something? And she said, well, my armed
security guards aren't killing kids, and they don't have semi-automatic weapons. So first off, they definitely have
semi-automatic weapons because those are the only weapons you can buy, Chelsea.
I mean, they have handguns, so, like, they have semi-automatic weapons.
But this is where it is, because Chelsea Handler will get on her Netflix show and speak to 10 million people when she doesn't even know what the hell a semi-automatic weapon is.
Right.
And so this is the problem. That's part of the problem.
And I mean, just going back to David Hogg again, like, he said, focus less on fear, more on facts. He's, calling Marco Rubio a child murderer. And then, when you come back and give him some flack, it was like, oh, let's focus more on being unifying and, quote, stop mudslinging at children. So when you give him heat when he's wrong, he's a child again. I'm 17. You can't attack me. But I can call you whatever I want.
Yeah.
So he's playing this double game, and that's why we shouldn't be using kids for a national conversation.
And this is why, guns. And I'm more mad at, like, he's a 17-year-old kid, he's a punk, whatever. But I'm more mad at the adults in CNN who don't say, all right, David, maybe we should, like, turn this back.
Like Brian Seltzer. You see that?
Dude, Brian Seltzer let him on the air and lie because he said, well, he's 17. Am I going to correct him?
And then he went on SC Cup show, and he's like, well, I had to walk a fine line. So I'm allowing him his emotional outrage, but... So, like, when he said Dana Lash is the CEO of the NRA, he was like, no, she's actually a national spokeswoman. So he's like, and he pointed that out. He was like, so I was correcting him there. But then, when he said some other things that I may have at the time known they were incorrect, I allowed him to say it because he was justified because he just had this shooting. And, like, that's completely incorrect.
Yeah, it's like, in what world is it more important? Oh, thanks for correcting her fucking business card, Brian Seltzer, saying that she's the spokesperson, not the president.
Right,
how about defending the facts, man? Come on.
And that's where we are anymore. Like, the facts don't matter. It's all about it's like your level of tragedy and personal feelings translates to your justification in being outraged. So, like, these Parkland shooting kids were obviously involved in the massacre, and so because that happened to them, anything they say is justified because of what happened to them. Like, okay, I had 3 knee surgeries. Like, I don't know shit about it. Like, I can't talk on a medical issue just because
Oh, yeah,
of
me
that.
neither. Yeah,
like,
I've had my meniscus torn twice. Do you want my advice going into a surgery?
Exactly.
No.
Like, just because you're involved in something doesn't mean you have any expertise on the issue.
And it's a lot of feelings, like you were just saying, and I think that spreads into the broader identity politics game.
Exactly.
That is being played, in where people are talking about speaking their truth, which I guess has a place in speaking your truth as insofar as
your personal
perspective and your experience, but
matters.
But when it comes to politics, and we're talking about broad generalizations out, we can't be making policy by emotions.
Well, no policy is going to get done in this climate.
Right. Well, well, the Republicans control everything, and we still can't get stuff done.
What
right?
we do get done is a disaster. $1.3 trillion of waste. Don't get me started on the omnibus bill again.
I was going to say,
but this is just. I mean, the country's so divided, Matt. Like, and this is a personal opinion, but I mean, I think it's factually correct. If you look at where both parties stood in 2008, okay, you look at what Obama ran and what Mitt Romney ran. Mitt Romney still reflects the large portion of the Republican Party. his ideas. And
yeah.
Okay, if Obama were to run today, and no one knew who he was, and he used his same 2008 ideas, he would literally not get elected.
That's true. Actually, can we just backtrack? So McCain 2008 though. I would say that Trump's populism is sort of overtaken the John McCain wing of the Republican Party, because John McCain is a free trade guy.
Sure.
Trump is a tariff. John McCain is sort of, can we call him a war hawk? Not a total. I wouldn't call him a total war hawk.
He's not Lindsey Graham, but he's not.
He's not Lindsey Graham or anything
Rand
like that. But he's not Rand Paul.
Fair.
And Donald Trump at least ran on and campaigned on being a non-interventionist president. I think 2008 will go down in the United States history books as one of those paradigm shifting years.
It changed everything. Obama's election changed everything.
It changed everything.
Trump may have won, okay, and he did, and people will say that's proof that the right has gone really radical, and I disagree with that, because Trump may have won, but the Republicans have given up on so many issues. Okay, they don't care about weed. Have you ever heard a Republican recently in the last 5 years talk about gay marriage? No. Since that became a thing, everyone folded on it.
We could talk about that in 08.
It happens. I mean, in 08, they were still holding that line, and then now they've given up. They've given up on a number of issues. They've ceded them. They moved on. They're more in the middle. But the Democrats have gone so far left. Obama in his first State of the Union speech, he's talking about border security. He's talking about getting rid of the violent criminals. Okay, if he were to even think that today, he wouldn't get elected.
No, he wouldn't get elected. He wouldn't be nominated.
Kamala Harris the other day was illegals should vote. It's what?
Where's this coming
Kamala
from?
Harris is going to run for president. If she's not a mainstream Democrat, who is? And that's where they think now. And the shift that has occurred in the Democrat Party just in 10 years, 08 to now, it is far more than the Republicans have gone right.
Well, look at the
and that's why there's such a divide.
Look at the leaders in the Democratic Party.
And now it's here and here.
The leaders in the Democratic Party, as much as they don't want to admit, Bernie Sanders holds huge influence over people on the left.
Oh, huh.
Elizabeth Warren, a socialist, a progressive, another huge
an American Indian
influence. And Pocahontas.
Yeah.
Because Pocahontas is actually, we don't want to,
No, I like Pocahontas.
I like Pocahontas much more. The thought leaders on the left are very much far leftist. Yeah, honestly, I mean, there's no way to put it. Hillary Clinton was very much the last mainstream center-left corporatist Democrat, which I don't like at all. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a fan of corporatism and stuff like that, but now I'm kind of wishing, can we get some Bill Clinton policies? I will take Bill Clinton's policies over some of the stuff they're talking about. I mean,
Bill Clinton's policies will be right-wing today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. By a lot.
I mean, he passed the gun ban, but
he was just very pro-business. He was.
Just illegal immigration is the perfect issue to point out.
Yeah.
Just the shift on that is demonstrative of the larger shift in the whole party on every issue. And not on every issue have they gone that far, but they've moved left on every issue since 08.
I would say.
Without
but do you think that the right is
the radical transformation of the country? Isn't that what Obama promised?
Yeah.
Isn't that what we got?
We did. We are.
It was not this divided in 2008.
It wasn't.
I mean, he campaigned on bringing everyone together, and everyone for a brief second was behind that.
It was beautiful. Obama was one of the greatest political campaigners in American history.
There's no denying.
I think he's the greatest speech giver in American politics probably ever. Right up there.
Chris Matthews got a chill up his leg. He was giving people chills up their legs, but
a lot of things give Chris Matthews chill up his legs, I'm sure.
But I mean, here's the thing though, they won't stop. Yeah. Okay, so gay marriage. Republicans fold on that, and you can find outliers. You can find outliers on every issue. They won't give that up. But largely, the Republicans.
You can go find some evangelical preacher
exactly.
that
but they folded on that. But no. Now we're on to gay issues and trans issues and LGBTQI, whatever the rest of the letters are.
Yeah.
Okay, because there's more now. But and if you even try and slow it down, okay, maybe 3-year-olds don't know what gender they are and they shouldn't be getting hormones. No, bigot.
Owen
Benjamin. They don't stop.
Owen Benjamin on Twitter, and listen, Owen Benjamin on Twitter, he is a little much sometimes.
Yeah.
He says some bad stuff, right?
I mean, stupid shit.
I definitely don't recommend saying the N-word on Twitter and shit like that. No. But what he's talking about in that, he told a Hollywood executive that maybe they shouldn't put chemicals inside their 3-year-old.
Right.
And this was seen as a great civil right violation Like you
I mean,
you might have thought this girl was Rosa Parks.
Right.
His manager dropped him. Tour dates canceled. People blacklisted him for saying that. Man, I don't know if 3-year-olds know what gender they are, and I don't know if the science is clear on that. I'm not a scientist, but if you're acting like you can just give people hormone treatment and then take it away and they can just live normal, I think that's a little delusional. I think that's naive.
It's just this. It's the slow march. Like we weren't talking about that in '08.
No,
you know?
No.
Like they couldn't have just okay. So we've been arguing about gay marriage for 50, 60 years, like for a long time in this country. And then boom, it's allowed. It's legal, 50 states, everyone's in, the right quiets down, they give up on that issue. And instead of like, hey, I'm glad we could, this is now the national thing, shake hands, try and come together. It's no, on to the next issue, trans.
Bigot, that's what it is.
Bigot. Like there's no, when do they stop? When are they going to be okay, this is far enough. We're good here. We got our point.
I forget who I was listening to, but I think it was on a Joe Rogan podcast. I don't know, something. But they were talking about how Hillary Clinton was very much for traditional marriage in 2008.
Dude, up until like 2013.
Until 2013. Right, it wasn't that weird of an opinion to have. And it became this weird shift where on January 1st... saying you believe in traditional marriage was just sort of like the weird social conservative thing to say. Where on January 2nd to say you believe in marriage or whatever it is, traditional marriage,
sure, became
like a corporal sin.
Right.
Like it became like that's the line. And let's be honest, what's the real issue with gay marriage? Gay marriage is a free speech and an association issue.
If you're talking about like the baking cakes and all that.
No, well, I think that what is why should we care about gay marriage? Why should marriage not be a thing? I think you should be able to associate with whoever you want.
Sure.
And you should be able to call that association wherever the fuck you want.
Sure.
So, two guys want to get married and they want to call it a marriage.
Nobody cares.
Then it's a marriage.
Yeah.
Okay? Why is the government telling people who they can marry in the first place?
Okay, but I don't have to bake them a cake if you don't want to.
Yeah. Religious liberty, I guess,
Dude, just freedom to do business for whatever reason, it's my business.
I think it's freedom to do business, and if you do that, I think you run the risk of people finding out about it and going to a different baker.
Exactly. First off, there's plenty of other options, and second off, like if that guy is choosing to give up business because of his personal beliefs, like that's hurting him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, especially now. I mean, the social pressure alone.
Exactly.
To not.
It's like let people talk and let their ideas speak for who they are, and then judge yourself accordingly.
And I think that if it wasn't so closely followed, like if this is happening, I don't think it is as big a deal. But the media goes around the South and they try to find these people. They try to find the bakers. That's what they're doing, right? Yeah. It's not like. Did you hear about the baker down in South Carolina?
It's not like there's an epidemic of bakers that aren't making cakes. Like there's one guy who's like, you know what, I'll make you the cake, but I'm not gonna. He literally said, I'll make the cake, I'll cook the whole cake. I'm not gonna decorate it like Joe and Steve. You can take it to another person to get it decorated. Like that's not good enough. I need you. I'm forcing you to put Joe and Steve on it.
I know, and I
think
it's
this compulsion, and that's what I'm saying. It doesn't stop. When does it stop?
I think it's because everything nowadays is framed in a civil rights way. Like, everything is a civil right. It's all, like, the left...
Less rights, more responsibility.
Well, what is it? The left is always trying to find the next civil rights issue to campaign on. And they've come into a problem nowadays where there aren't enough racists to fuel, like, to fuel the fire that they think there is. They think there's an epidemic of Nazis in the United States. There isn't. And so when they find a few Nazis, they make a Vice documentary on them, and they make it seem like this is the norm in every small town in America. I don't think it's the norm. I think it's
not the norm.
I think it's extremely small, concentrated groups of people who both sides agree are losers.
Right.
Like there's no one on Fox News that you say, do you like neo-Nazis? And they're gonna say, they're gonna be like, yeah, neo-Nazis are fucking losers. Like they're stupid. Like obviously, come on, this is something that we decided a long time ago.
Charlottesville, they hold like a rally and they get all the racists they can from like 10 states nearby. And what do they get? 80 people with tiki torches? Yeah,
they got 80 of the biggest losers in like that tri-state area.
And that's the point. Like it's not a big issue, but because there's such a focus on it, we think it's a bigger issue than it is. And we're avoiding like actual things that matter so that we can talk about bathrooms and David Hogg and all these things.
Why aren't we talking about the debt? These wars that are going on in the United States. Why are we talking about
actual issues?
Why are we not talking about term limits? Why are we not talking that our senators are like 90 years old? They don't represent us.
No.
Right? No, but we got to talk about transgender bathrooms in Carolina or something.
And I mean, so a little bit of a transition. Last week, California, took on a very big issue.
Woo!
Took on a big issue. I got it. So, the coffee.
So, now coffee in California, they have to list that your coffee may potentially give you cancer.
Yeah, so they passed a regulation that coffee in California, Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, anyone who makes coffee has to put on it now a warning that coffee may cause cancer, may contribute to getting cancer. That's a big issue when California just got leading the country in poverty, leading the country in homelessness. There's a total housing crisis. San Francisco's full of heroin addicts and shit.
Yeah. California, I don't understand where the priorities lay. You would think a state with as many problems as they do would realize what they're doing to their citizens. They're making life worse.
It's a nanny state.
It's a nanny state.
It's a nanny state. We're not gonna. It's like New York. It's like Bill De Blasio focusing on all these issues, and people are like, "Can you fix the subway?
Right?
Can I get a subway that runs on time, please? Like, do your job and stop worrying about all this extra bullshit."
I know. It really is. That's funny. That's a good way to put it.
So I mean, it's proof that the government, that's the liberal mindset though. The government knows better than you do. The elite few in D.C. know what's better for you on healthcare and for all your issues, and we can run it better here than you can for yourself, and that's just fundamentally incorrect.
It's like, hey, bureaucrats, can you run my life, please?
Exactly.
That's what they're asking to do.
They think that they know what's better for you than you do. Like, okay, I mean, how many things cause cancer? Everything. Like, everything causes cancer.
Yeah. At this point...
Okay, is it really a priority for people in California to pass a regulation to now require all these businesses to change all their coffee cups so that it says this may cause cancer, when everyone just wants to get their coffee and go on with their day and do their things?
There are people who drink 5 pots of coffee a day.
There's people that drink 10 Red Bulls and smoke a pack of cigs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, this is not an issue we should be focusing on, but it is an issue in California. It's what matters to the liberals. They have to pander to these people. Oh, your coffee. You need to watch out for your coffee.
Yeah.
Instead of doing things that matter.
I think you have right here, like, people left alone to make their own choices, act in their own best self-interest.
Exactly.
People act in their own best. The idea that the government knows what's best for you better than you and your family and your community do is insane. It is insane. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand.
I don't know how you can think that. Like, who knows best, and like, who knows best for your children? Who knows best for you more than you? Nobody.
Right,
nobody. But someone either elected or probably unelected in D.C. or in California, you know what we need to do today? We need to warn all the good people out there that their coffee may give them cancer. That's what they're focusing on.
Which is insane. Who cares?
And
go ahead.
I mean, okay, a long time ago, there were some colonists in this country, and they were getting rules made for them far, far away in England, and they said, "I think I know what I'm doing better."
Yeah, exactly.
I think I can make my own decisions here. And now the same thing's happening, but it's coming out of D.C. or it's coming out of the state capitals across the country.
I think we need to get back to localized government, small state-controlled federalism.
That's a radical idea, Matt.
Federalism is a radical idea.
At this point, it is.
At this stage, the idea that the states can make their own decisions.
I mean, every 4 years we argue over the president. Like, it's Trump or Hillary. You got to pick one. What if it didn't matter?
It shouldn't matter.
What if it was so like Rand Paul?
Matter.
I want a government so small you don't even think about it. Like, what if it didn't matter? Like, I think I'd live.
You mail a check at the end of the year for your small taxes.
Yeah, and you have to write the whole check for the whole year's taxes instead of it getting sucked out of each paycheck.
Right, exactly. And then we don't think about it. But now, especially with Trump, the worst thing I think that Trump has done to America, besides policy-wise and stuff like that, is make everyone care about politics.
Yeah.
Politics is meant for the nerds like me and like Bob who care about this stupid shit. Politics is seeped its way into every single avenue of our life, and I don't think it's healthy for the country. There needs to be...
It's not mentally healthy.
There needs to be places you can go and just watch a football game.
I can't watch a football game now. Like, companies have to choose. Like, I can't buy Gillette shaving cream because they support Laura Ingraham, or you're like a bigot, or you want dead kids in schools.
Right?
Because I want Gillette shaving cream. Like...
Or, I think our friend, we talk about this too with video games. Video game journalism is no longer about just video games. It's about putting an agenda, forcing creators to sort of kowtow to what they want.
Well,
and
that's
it's really
Hollywood
weird.
now, too. Hollywood.
That's always how Hollywood's been, right?
I mean, The Shape of Water, like all the movies they make now are politically driven. There's an agenda behind all of them. And
Shape of Water won. Okay, I'm not the biggest movie buff. I watched some movies, right? I watched some movies.
I've seen some movies.
I've seen some movies.
Yeah.
The Shape of Water is the best movie that came out this year.
Well, first off, they haven't had a good movie in like 4 or 5 years, to be honest. Like, I was on demand, I was on Netflix, and I was looking up HBO and Stars last night, trying to find one movie, and all the good ones I've already seen because they've had no good ones.
What else came out this year? You're telling me that The Shape of Water was better than Dunkirk?
Come on.
Give that shit to Dunkirk. That movie was amazing.
That was a good movie.
Come on. But no, it's Shape of Water, and then we have to suck Meryl Streep's.
Dude, they just make Marvel movies now so they can stay in business, and then they make the politically driven movies that they want to.
Marvel movies make money.
I mean, they're fine movies, and that's what Hollywood should be making.
But
they don't want to be making Marvel movies.
No, I disagree.
They want to be making Shape of Water.
Oh, okay.
Like, they want to be driving their agenda down your throat.
Yeah, they want to. Yeah, that's for sure. That's why Black Panther was sort of like the best of both worlds, because they got both.
Right.
Luckily, Black Panther was like really, really popular and really good.
I haven't seen it, but it's a Marvel. I mean, they're all good. Personally, I like all of them.
It's like
I like all the Marvel movies.
People are saying it's like a top 5 Marvel movie, right? I mean, he knows. Our friend knows all about it. Yeah, people are saying it's like a really great movie.
Okay.
So I believe it. But
I don't know what you want to move to next. We were talking about this in the car, just like the iPhone generation.
Nah, let's just talk about this girl we met last night.
Fair enough.
So me and Bob went to the bar last night.
Good transition. So,
and when we got to the bar, we don't talk politics on the bar. Usually, we're with our friends. It depends how many drinks we have.
Right.
Last night, some random girl came up to us and just started talking.
She was pretty drunk.
And she was pretty drunk, but I think she was pretty emblematic of like the typical just liberal girl that doesn't pay attention too much to politics. Because first off, she came up to us and said where we were from, and she said she was Parisian. No, you're not Parisian. You're in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. You're not from Paris.
Right.
She turns out she visited Paris like once 5 years ago, so she tells everyone she's from Paris. And then she just starts shit talking on the United States to me and Bob.
Right.
Little did she know. She was definitely not expecting.
Yeah, she walked into the wrong conversation.
She walked into the wrong conversation.
So our other buddies left, and me and Matt had to talk to this chick now, just because I like when I run into people like that, I want to pick their mind.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm like, how did you come to believe this thing?
Yeah, she says she's Parisian. I'm like, oh, really? Like, did you live there? Like, are you from there? She's like, no, I went like once in 2012 for a couple days. And you're like, why did you just introduce yourself as Parisian?
Yeah, why are you here? A little weird. But they sort of see themselves as like global citizens and
sure
and what have you. But
sure.
She was shit talking United States education, which I'm one to harp on as well.
Sure.
That's fine. I think she raised some pretty good points. Not that, I mean, she didn't even raise the point. She just said the United States sucks at education. She couldn't tell me why. But the reason the United States sucks at education is because we just funnel all this money to teacher unions, and we pay the most per student, like in the developed world. I think we pay $12,000 per student
you just read
in the United
that,
States. Yeah, I think I'm in the middle of writing something on it.
I mean, South Korea pays almost half what we do per student.
South Korea pays $6,000 per student, and their kids are like actually smart.
Yeah.
And actually learn something.
Like way ahead in math, way ahead in
way
science.
ahead in math, reading proficiency, science. And so what she was saying, because this is the answer, is our kids aren't doing, our public school sucks, so what do we need to do? We need to give them more money. No. Can't you tell the money that we're giving them isn't being put to good use? The people that are running the schools, the public schools, they mean well. Sure. I'm sure they do. Mm-hmm. But they suck at their job. How many years of data do you have to see of Americans being like 30th in the world in reading until we can say, okay, maybe someone else should take care of the schooling thing because you aren't getting results.
Right.
Why am I paying you $110,000 a year, right? Some of these teacher salaries, $110,000 a year in upper to not get results.
Exactly.
And who it fails the most, which is the saddest part, is it fails the minorities and the poor communities in the United States.
Who have no other option but the public school.
Who have no other option because they're told they're evil if they support or go to a Catholic school or something like that.
Well, they don't have the money. Like, a lot of people don't have the money.
They don't have the money.
That's why people go to public school, because it's already baked into your taxes. Like, you can go there for free. And that should be an option. But, I mean, Betsy DeVos got hit over the head for this, saying there should be vouchers. Like, if you give people a choice in where they go to school, they'll pick, again, they will pick in their best interest. They know more than the government. I'm going to send my kid to the school that I think is best. And if you do that, what will you get? You'll probably have a lot of public schools that close and a lot more private schools that open, and you'll have a better level of education in general.
Yeah, I think 100%.
I mean, it's not really that radical of a thought process.
And I work in education a little bit, and so I'm starting to get woke on this type of stuff.
Sure.
The more I hate that word so much too, but it's necessary here. As I'm reading more about this and stuff, we set inner city kids, and one of my coworkers said this to me. We were touring one of the public schools. And the difference between a public school and a Catholic school, as soon as you walk in, you notice the difference because the Catholic school, everyone's super quiet. Like, the hallways are really quiet. That's how I can tell, being in tons of Catholic schools and tons of private schools, or public schools. And she said, if you lived in this area, would you want your kid to go to this school? I said, no. Obviously, I would do everything I can to make sure my kid doesn't go to this school because these kids are failing.
Right.
These kids feel that they're, when I interview parents for admissions into our schools, they're getting bullied. They're not learning anything. Homework. And so she said, so why should the government tell any parent that they have to send their kid here? You have to. Your son is going to get bullied. He's not going to learn anything. We don't care. He has to go to this public school.
He lives here. He has to go here.
It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's not fair, and it hurts the people who really need education the most. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that's gets me a little heated up because they want to argue again. You want to argue for better education for inner city communities, but we're not getting what we put in.
Right. And
so we need to rethink the entire education system in the United States.
But we can't have that discussion, Matt. We have to talk about David Hogg going to college.
Right.
We can't have discussions on things that matter because we're debating 17-year-old kids who just were in a massacre. And how do you fix that? How do you get back to what matters? How do you talk about the things that actually matter instead of the constant just bubbling up of drama of things that are totally irrelevant?
I think something's going to change within the next couple years because
it's going to get worse before it gets better.
I think it might get worse.
A lot worse.
Before it gets better, but I think eventually
this isn't the
clickbait and the advertisers and stuff like that for Facebook, for example,
right?
Them coming. I think that model is going to have to be thrown to the wayside. I think the model is going to have to be.
But how? That's where the money is.
People like it's the Patreon model or the GoFundMe model is going to have to take over because talking about revamping United States education doesn't sell on CNN, but really these quips on Twitter do. We have to find a way to get out of there. I think the only way to get out of there is to stop the clickbait. Clickbait sells. We need to find a way to incentivize non-clickbait material. Get back to long-form journalism. People actually go unbiased. But how?
That's not what people are like. I just put something up on our website about the debt and how we're blaming the congressmen and it's rightfully their fault for the amount of debt and the spending that's coming out of Congress. But the American people don't want to make the necessary changes so that we don't have to do that. The congressmen are not going to take it upon themselves to be like, wow, we probably shouldn't be doing this, so we're not. When the people, they still want their checks, they still want their Social Security, when they're not going to make the hard changes that need to be done so we can stop all the spending and stop all the debt. It has to start with the people. Stormy Daniels was one of the most watched interviews on 60 Minutes in the last 10 years.
Second most.
Second most, besides Obama and Michelle in 2008, right after they got elected. How are you going to make an education conversation at the forefront when they could just push Stormy Daniels and get all the clicks, get all the views, and get all the money from it?
We can't.
I don't know what the answer to that is. It's more of a question. But
it is more of a question. I'm hoping that I really hope that alternative media.
But if you follow the Patreon model, what are you going to get? You're just going to have people in their own bubble of news. They're going to follow what they support.
Yeah.
And that could potentially just divide even further. So, the
Facebook stories that's coming out is really interesting because it has such big implications because Facebook decides elections now. This is where we come from. We don't...
Not Russia. It was Donald Trump smartly using advertising on Facebook, pretty much.
And Russia advertising on Facebook, apparently, making pro-Hillary Clinton ads or something, whatever. We need to have because Facebook, if they're the gatekeepers, they need to make sure that they're objective.
Well, if Facebook's the gatekeeper, we're already in trouble. You're starting from a bad place there.
Well, that's what we're talking about, right? Because we talked about it, I think, last podcast. Mark Zuckerberg goes in and meets with Congress people to talk about which news is and isn't allowable. And so every conservative media outlet received hits in their numbers due to the changing of an algorithm. And people on the left, they think that's good. They think, ha ha ha, like, you guys are wrong. You're not getting as many views.
Right.
Man, you gave power to Obama, and now Trump has it, and you don't like it. The same thing can happen, right? The same type of thing can happen in that.
I mean, everything flips.
Everything flips eventually. You're not in power forever.
Exactly.
That's one of the biggest dangers is that...
I mean, Obama, a pen and a phone, like Trump has one too. That's why it shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
That's why it should be irrelevant.
Well, it is funny because even people don't even want to admit, like, you sure we shouldn't have, restricted Obama's war-making power? In Congress, they're like, no, don't think so. Yeah. It's like, well, now Trump has that ability to take us all to war whenever he wants.
Or pull us out of Syria.
You think he's going to pull us out of Syria?
He mentioned that. I mean, he said it on the campaign trail, so you can literally never trust what comes out of his face, but...
Yeah,
but
I think we do need to pull out of Syria. This is me saying, I mean, I hate Bashar al-Assad with all my heart. He's a bad guy. He's killed a bunch of innocent people. But nothing, he won the war. It sucks to say, but he did win the war. And now this isn't over. Just because he won the Syrian civil war against the rebels and ISIS.
Right.
You're going to start to see the Kurds, Turkey, Iran, all these people are still... They want their piece of the pie. Right. That's what the Kurds want, their piece of the pie. The Kurds want a place to stay.
I don't know why we don't back them more, but...
We don't back them more because Turkey considers them a terrorist organization, even though Erdogan is an Islamist... I mean, Erdogan is an Islamist dictator at this point. He's throwing a bunch of state funds. It used to be...
They lock up more journalists than anyone else, right, Turkey?
Yeah, they have the most journalists locked up in the world.
More than China, more than Russia.
They have something in their constitution, I believe. You're not allowed to use religious overtones in your political campaigning and stuff. He just built a presidential mosque at the palace grounds. He's been funding state, Islamism schools, similar to Catholic schools in the United States, and so it's that weird separation of church and state.
They don't have much anymore. He's breaking that barrier.
He's breaking the barrier. Turkey used to be like the secular, what we want in
a Muslim country.
In a Muslim country, they were like they have like the best. Their history is so great, by the way. I mean, Ataturk was like this great secular leader, and Fethullah Gulen, who now lives in Pennsylvania, who's like the arch nemesis of Erdogan.
Yeah, they want him extradited, don't they?
They want him extradited, yeah, because they think he started off that coup with them 2 years ago. If you remember that didn't work. But anyway, yeah, I mean, we need to support Kurds.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just another something that the Paris girl said last night. The war in Syria obviously made a big migrant crisis, that whole issue. And when she referenced that she had been to Paris, I've been to Paris 3 times, like a total of like nine days. And
so you're Parisian.
So I'm Parisian, yeah. I'm more Parisian than she is. So, I mean, when you're there... Okay, so Trump made that shithole comment about Haiti, right? And, like, Haiti's a shithole. Sorry, it is. I said to her last night, like it just sort of in jest, like, oh, Paris is kind of a shithole. Because, personally, in my opinion, like, Paris is pretty dirty. Like, it's nice when you go in, like, the touristy areas, like the Eiffel Tower, the Arc de Triomphe, like, obviously, like, they're nice, clean.
And well-kept, yeah.
Right, but when you get off the main streets, like, it's really not, I mean, it's not clean, but it's not a place you want to be. Like, our tour bus driver, when we were there, was, like, mentioned a whole bunch of rail lines that you shouldn't get off at. I happened to get off at a rail line, and I went up, and before the rest of my body got out of the subway, just my head, I was like, oh, like, I shouldn't be here. Like, it looked like something out of like a Middle East country, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yes, there was people in the full garb, like robes. It was all men. It was about 200 men, just like in like a small market, trash, dirty, and it like initially, like, you just have that feeling like this is unsafe. Like, I'm in one of those places that I just got warned about. And I brought this up to her, and it's funny how like when Trump makes that shithole comment, they're like, Haiti's not a shithole. I said, like, oh, Paris is kind of a shithole, and like she replied, she's so you what? America's great. Like, America can be a shithole too.
Sure.
And she said that, and it's so funny how like how
Have you been to Brooklyn? Have you been to parts of Brooklyn?
How they're more willing to shit on them. Have you been to San Francisco?
Yeah.
Like, there's heroin needles and literally thousands of pounds of feces on the streets that they have to clean up. Like, it's funny though that they're more willing to call America a shithole than they are willing to attack Trump because he said Haiti's a shithole, which he shouldn't have said, but like regardless. And that just brought up the migrant crisis. Like there's a total denial in Europe and in America that there are no-go zones in those countries, and there are.
There are entire papers which will just put like there's like the myth of the no-go zone.
Yeah, they think you're a conspiracy theorist.
They think you're a conspiracy theorist.
It's like it's not a thing. Like,
and YouTube videos aren't the best.
I mean,
sources,
you can obviously doctor them and stuff,
but man, you know, you see some of these videos of people going into these zones, like, holy shit.
I mean, and more than the no-go zones, like just the whole migrant crisis and the influx of the immigrants and the lack of assimilation has just caused so many problems. Like, and I mean, you look at England, what they covered up.
The Rotherham child sex ring.
Like, so basically for the last 20 years, there's been, I mean, Google it, everybody, there's been mass rape, thousands of rape, like rings of rape that immigrants have done in Europe to
grooming these girls.
Yes, to English,
really sad.
To young English girls. And it's basically been covered by the police because they thought that by exposing it, there'd be such a backlash.
They didn't want to be thought of as like racist,
right.
And they didn't want a backlash. And it's really sad. It's sad, first off, because these girls deserve justice, obviously,
right.
And the families deserve justice. I mean, I've read stories where, you know, a guy will walk in on his daughter being groomed and he'll get arrested for trespassing. Like crazy shit like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like anything to keep this under hush because...
But if you point this out, like, you get called, like, a racist, a xenophobe, like, you don't like Muslims, you're a conspiracy theorist because this isn't actually happening.
Because man, it's
just
like
such a denial.
there's a fine line in there, right? Like, there's the nugget of truth, but
right.
When they played that Rotherham documentary on the BBC or Channel 4 or something, you know, someone from the middle of the country was watching the video, pissed him off. He started cursing about migrants, and then he drives his car into a crowd of people outside a mosque, and it's like.
So I mean, the backlash did happen, but like,
it's just making it worse,
right?
And it's just so you get this like creepy feeling where it's like, well, maybe, like, were people ready to hear about it? I'm saying yes.
Yes.
Obviously.
Yes.
But in the face of people being mowed down, you know, innocent people, you know, these aren't. It's not like he went and killed a bunch of people that were raping English girls. Like, these were people just going to mosque,
right.
Coming out of a service, and all of a sudden he runs a car into them. Man, I don't know how you fix that. That's a wound.
That whole issue, it goes to like a larger thinking that your rhetoric and your words are more important than the actual action.
Okay.
So instead of, you know, like, this might actually be going on, but don't talk about it. We can't talk about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like, and I mean, all these issues, like everything we brought up today, like, you know, the facts take a secondary seat to your experience or what I know from, you know, from being a survivor of this massacre in the David Hogg instance.
Yeah,
like the words behind things matter more than the actual facts or the situation at hand.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to live in a society where people aren't assimilating and where these awful things are happening, so just don't tell me about it.
Right.
Like, I like the idea that everybody is happy.
I'm so fragile, I can't know about it.
And we're a big, happy community, when I think that's just a little naive.
It's dangerous.
At this point. I think it is dangerous because it allows things like the Rotherham scandal to happen, right? When you're scared of being labeled something, because words are powerful. But yeah, you would think that would trump any smear against you, you know, protecting girls. But apparently it doesn't.
Right.
Lastly, Roseanne.
Wow, Roseanne.
We should start off. We'll end it with some cheers since we don't want to end it on a sad note.
Rape. That wouldn't be good.
Roseanne Barr show showing strong numbers, and this has kind of been heralded on the right as sort of a win to show that there's a spot.
Of course, we can't just have a nice TV show now.
Oh, there's a spot on TV. Yeah, well, there's a spot on TV that MAGA supporters actually would like, and they are a market.
They're a big market.
And they're a big market. The Roseanne show was showing some of the strongest numbers.
Was it 18 million on the debut?
That's pretty crazy. That's
huge.
That's a lot of people. Yeah.
And it's not even like the show is like, you know, right wing. She just happens to say in the show that she's a Trump supporter, but like her kid is gender fluid.
Yeah.
Or not like a kid in the show. So
I think, and that goes to show that that Trump supporters aren't these evil people,
yeah.
right? Like,
right.
That goddamn gender fluid
They
kid
just
on the
want to be
Roseanne
told
show.
that they're evil people.
It's like, what? Come on, yeah, they just want to be told that they're not evil people, right? Exactly.
But what else you got?
She's gonna offer to host Sean Hannity's show. I think.
To host or to be on?
I think she's hosting it.
Oh wow.
Which would be,
well, she's like kind of crazy.
She is kind of. Roseanne is kind of crazy.
And like not scandal free.
Did you see? We should have mentioned this with Kurt.
What?
You see Kurt. So tentacle dude Kurt. He tweeted out a picture of Roseanne. She did a photo shoot for Hebe, which is a Jewish magazine. Dressed as Hitler with a bunch of gingerbread men burnt in an oven.
Yeah.
Very distasteful.
Like
whatever. Stupid. Again.
Is that better or worse than Kathy Griffin with the head?
I think they're both. I don't know.
I think that's worse.
You think? Because the Kathy Griffin in the head thing was sort of bad because.
I mean, I don't know the context with the Roseanne thing, but I saw the picture.
Because, like, with Kathy Griffin cutting off the head is like, we live in a time where people getting their heads cut off and thrown on screen isn't weird. Like, that shit happens a lot. Not too many people are being cooked in ovens right now, I hope.
Fair enough.
Either way, stupid picture. But Kurt Eichenwald, of course, said he actually brought tears to my eyes. He is the worst. He is literally the worst. Ben Shapiro and him should debate.
Yeah, I think he's
challenging Ben Shapiro, but
he
Ben
tried to
is
bury
a little...
his tweets, so he just started tweeting a bunch to get the Kyle Kashuv lower.
Yeah,
and he was talking about how like Ben Shapiro, like I've emailed him to debate me and he won't.
I don't think Ben Shapiro is afraid of Kurt Eichenwald.
No, not much logic coming out of Kurt Eichenwald. I think that just about does it though for everything we had and everything we wanted to mention on the first one.
Pretty cool.
We're probably about an hour.
Probably done an hour or something like that. So first video podcast.
So first video podcast. Matt's got to go back to Hoboken.
Unfortunately.
So he was just home for the weekend. It's Easter. We wanted to get this one done. But we're going to try and video record our Skype conversations.
Yeah, so going forward now the podcast is going to be available on YouTube. And we're going to start doing some more cool stuff, breaking them up into segments to make them shareable.
Yeah.
Writing a little bit more. And, of course, if you guys want to follow us, head on over to ombudsmanreport.com. Mm-hmm. Same Twitter handle, @ombudsmanreport. You can follow me, @planetpolitico. Follow Bobby.
@BobbyJPolitics. Ombudsmanreport.com. Also on iTunes.
Google Play.
Is that coming?
No, we're on Google Play.
Oh, wow. All right, you're the tech guy.
I'm the tech guy, so he doesn't know. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. We'll talk to you next week.